One of the features that we thought was pretty cool when we moved into this house a few years ago was this central vacuum system that I guess was quite popular in the mid-80s when this property was built. Now, before you give the previous owners too much credit for the look of these fixtures, you should know that they had pulled a big-time landlord special on me, having painted over all the wall inlets before selling the home. And since we do most of our vacuum with a chargeable Dyson wall unit anyway, my initial thought was to just take these out altogether and patch the drywall. But to be honest, once I actually fired the thing up, something about this powerful old-school spring action made me want to keep them around.
Nice.
At the time, I was also replacing all the doorknobs and hinges and thought maybe if I stripped these down to the metal finish, they might complement the rest of the new hardware. It's also great to have the 30-foot hose attachment around, in case you want to hook it onto the back of a rotary sander for some light drywall work. But let's save that conversation for another video. So today, I thought we'd remove and restore this final wall inlet, which is actually hidden behind the bed in the upstairs bedroom, so it's been way lower on my honey-do list. Now, getting these off the wall is easy enough, but before you get started, just be sure to head down to the breaker and kill the power to the connection, as you'll need to disconnect a few wires in order to completely get this off the wall. Also, before you yank the thing off there, whenever you're dealing with any type of painted over hardware or wall plate, you might want to score the perimeter so you can avoid ripping the paint where the wall meets the fixture. This one is already in rough shape, so I will likely touch up the wall once I finish this video to get it to the same level as the rest of them around the house. But you can definitely save yourself some work if you're just replacing a switch cover, for example, and not painting the room. I want to mention here that I typically take a photo of the wiring in order to make sure that I can get everything put back together correctly. As you can probably tell, I am by no means a professional electrician, and therefore try to steer clear of any electrical work involving highly insulated, higher gauge wiring.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Once you get everything disconnected, you can twist out this plastic piece, remove the activation button here for the electrical connection, and then twist off this rubber gasket, and we are now ready to remove some paint. Now, with any sort of project like this, you need to make sure that you are not working with lead paint.
That's a niche.
In which case, you're likely going to want to call a specialist. Lucky for me, they stopped using the stuff in my area about a decade before this home went up. But definitely do your due diligence before moving on to this next step. So once you get it off there, you're going to need a few different items to restore this thing to its former glory. I'd recommend a combination of a heat gun, a metal scraping tool along with some acetone. Then follow that with a somewhat coarse sandpaper, and finally some fine emery cloth to buff out any scratches. Once you've got some heat-retardant gloves on, you basically just warm the thing up until the paint starts to bubble, and then scrape off whatever you can. I'll throw a link in the description to this heat gun, as it's been an absolute workhorse for me over the past few years. I also used it to strip 3 layers of paint off of this hand railing before sanding and staining it to match our stair risers, but again, maybe a topic for another video. Now, if you don't have a heat gun, you can also get a pretty similar result by submerging the hardware in a pan of boiling water with some baking soda for about 30 minutes, like you see these fine gentlemen doing here. The main drawback of this method is that it takes slightly more time, and you also end up ruining a piece of your kitchenware. Let me know in the comments if you can figure out the man math on destroying your family's cooking pan versus getting to buy an awesome heat gun. So once you are getting most of the paint scraped off, you will want to grab your sandpaper and start to hit the more stubborn areas, first with the coarser grit, and then with the emery cloth to get that nice satin-looking finish. I only really use the acetone to clean up any metal dust from the emery cloth from the outside and also from around the logo area, as to create this classy paint fill effect, as I think it provides a nice touch to the overall aesthetic. So once you're done with the paint removal, I'd recommend you go ahead and wipe this thing down with some soapy water and then dry it thoroughly and put some silicone lubricant onto the spring before reconnecting the wiring and screwing it back into the frame. I should also mention that I've used either the heat gun or boiling method on door hinges that were painted over, as well as strike plates and even cabinet hinges, and I've found it's way easier, faster, and cleaner than going about it with a paint stripper. So that's it for this one, and if you've made it this far, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell to allow notifications, as it really helps out the channel. Product links are in the description. Thanks.